Hey everyone, Dan from ON1 here. In this Upgrade Survival Guide video, I want to help existing users of Perfect Photo Suite through the upgrade process into ON1 Photo 10. We'll talk about some of the changes that we've made and how you'll use it slightly differently in the future. Well, first off, obviously the name is different. It's now ON1 Photo 10 rather than the Perfect Photo Suite. Same great product, just a new name. The next thing you'll notice that's very different is the user interface. We've worked really hard to modernize the user interface, to make it easier to use, to give you the right tools at the right time, and to hide the less frequently used tools to get them out of the way. I'm here inside the Browse module, and I'm going to use that as my home base. One of the big changes you'll notice is the module selector no longer lives up here in the upper right hand corner. It now lives in a bumper along the right hand edge. The modules are now grouped together based on what they do. There's the Browse module that we're in right now. Then there's the three editing modules, Enhance, Effects, and Portrait for editing your photos. And the Layers module for merging multiple layers together or working in a layered workflow. You'll notice that black and white is missing. Black and white has now become part of Effects. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. For resize, you actually access resize and batch processing through the new export module down here in the bottom right. If you're on a Mac, you can click on the share button to open up the sharing panel. And in the bottom right hand corner, there's a set of chevrons which will open or close the right hand panel. The contents of that panel change depending on which module you're in. On the left hand side is where the tools will live. If you're in something like Effects or Portrait, you'll see all of the brushes and all of the masking tools will live over here on the left-hand side. In Browse, there's a series of helpful shortcuts that I can click on to take me common places like my desktop or my favorites or my picture folder or all of my albums, for example. Then in the bottom left, there's a gear for opening the Preferences dialog, a help icon to open the help web page, and those same chevrons we saw on the right, but in this case for opening and closing the left-hand panel. In the main preview area here in Browse, these are actually folders. You'll see that folders have a folder badge on them, and they actually show you an image inside of the folder to give you a clue as to what's inside of it. I can select and drill down inside of a folder, and I'll continue to see folders and images mixed together. If I keep digging into my folders, I'll get down to where the photos actually live. You notice that I have them set to show large square thumbnails. This provides the best use of the display. However, if I like the old-fashioned rectangular thumbnails, I can go to the View menu and turn off square thumbnails. This will let me see the entire photo. You also have the option to hide the file name or to always show the file name. You can, again, control that from the View menu and select the Always Show File Name option. This will show the file name all of the time rather than just when you mouse over it. Now let's talk about favorites. In the past, a favorite in Browse was really just a shortcut. It kept track of a place that you went to frequently, but that was all it did. A favorite in ON1 Photo 10 is a little different. It's now a watched folder. It keeps track of all of the folders and all of the photos inside of it for you. It does this in the background, and it makes viewing and searching your photos so much faster. Now, because favorites are a little bit different, we didn't automatically bring forward previous favorites. So you'll need to re-add the favorites that you want to keep track of. Adding a favorite is really easy. You can just drag and drop a folder right here into this little hotspot that says drag your favorites here, or you can click on the plus button in the upper right hand corner and navigate to a folder where you keep photos. Let me show you. I'm just going to click on the plus button. I'm just going to select a folder that I go to all the time and select Open. It's now added my Demo Images folder as a favorite. Inside of that, you'll see the thumbnails of the folders. You can see how it quickly is scanning through them. It's extracting thumbnails. And when I go inside of one of these folders, it's automatically extracted thumbnails. It makes it much faster for me to view and navigate through those folders. It also gives me the ability to search now. Down here in the Filters pane, rather than just looking within the current folder view, I can now search across all of my favorites just by checking this option called Search My Favorites. When I turn this on, I can now type in what I'm looking for. Let's say I'm looking for pictures of roses. So as I start to type, it now searches all of my files and all of my folders that are added as a favorite. And just by typing in the word rose, I can find all of my pictures of roses just like that. One last change in Browse, and that's where your metadata lives. On an individual photo, when you add information to the metadata panel over here on the right, so for example, if I added my author information to this photo, that metadata is stored inside of a local cache or local database on my machine. In order to get that metadata to be embedded into my photo, I simply go to the Photo menu and select Embed Metadata. Now, if you send that photo either through the export module or you use any of the send to commands like send to Photoshop or send to Lightroom, that metadata gets automatically embedded as well. The big changes in Enhance are in the color and tone adjustments. We've worked hard to make these act more like a raw processor. They give you a larger range to make adjustments with. For example, the brightness slider has been replaced with an exposure slider, which now has a much larger range. You'll also notice it's much faster to make adjustments as well. We've worked really hard to improve the performance by using the video card more. Other sliders also have a larger range and work in both directions. For example, shadows, highlights, whites, and blacks all have a larger range and have both positive and negative ranges. So for example, with shadows, typically I'm going to use it to brighten up the shadows, but if I want to, I can also darken just the shadows to increase the drama or increase the contrast. Same thing with those highlights. Normally you're going to use it to darken the highlights, but you can also use it to increase the brightness of the highlights for a more glowing ethereal look as well. It's really up to you. And the whites and blacks work the same way. We've added presets for different white balance situations so that it'll automatically correct for different color temperatures of lighting. And we've increased the range of the temperature and tint slider so that you can really correct for large adjustments or really add a much stronger color cast if necessary. And we've added a saturation slider along with a vibrance slider so that if you want to go all the way to pure black and white, you can do that now as well. Effects sees some pretty big changes in ON1 Photo 10 as well. Let's start off with the presets. On the left in the drawer, there's a preset tab and a filter tab. We've significantly simplified the way that presets work. In the past, there was presets that we installed, which you couldn't delete or you couldn't edit, and there were presets that you could create, which of course you had full control over. And if you downloaded presets from your friends or from the ON1 website, you could also add those as well. And there's also the concept of favorites, where there was the favorites that we provided and then the favorites that you've created. So it kind of made this big morass of presets. Some you could manage and some you couldn't. Well, now in Photo 10, all of the presets are treated equally. They all live in the same place. So even though we create them, you have the ability to go in and edit them and delete them or reorganize them as you see fit. You can also delete or rename right here in the new preset browser. Within the Presets tab, you'll see My Favorites at the top. That's the favorites that you've assigned to be a favorite. At the bottom, you'll see your recently used presets. In the middle are all of the categories that we provide, and any categories that you create, or if you're installing over a previous version, any categories that we automatically import for you. So any presets that you've created or added will appear in this list as well. When you click on a category, it'll zoom inside of it and you'll see thumbnails of your image with the different presets applied. And you can simply scroll up and down that list to see the options. You can change how big the thumbnails are by going to the View menu, going to Browser mode, and you can select from a 1, 2, or 3 column view. So if you like to see more thumbnails at a time, you could select the 2 column option. You can then grab the separator line between the preview area and the preset drawer and make it larger so you can view more at once. Or you can still use the Quick View Browser button right here to view a full screen matrix of your options. To use a preset, simply click on it. To make it a favorite, click on the heart in the upper right hand corner. If you want to delete or edit a preset, you can right click and you have the options to delete it or edit or to update it with your current settings. That update option is new. It's great. Let's say you use a preset all the time, but you always make the same adjustment to it. You can make that adjustment once, update the preset, and you'll always get what you want each and every time. To go back to the list of categories, just click on the back button. We've reorganized the categories as well to simplify the list and to give you some new presets based on different types of photography. You'll notice new categories for architecture, color grading, haze reducing, sports, and weddings. The second tab is the Filters tab, And this gives you a list of all the different filters that are available and the built-in settings that we help you get started with. At the heart of effects is still the concept of stacking filters together. Now, the filter stack looks a little different than it did in the past. I'm going to start by emptying out my filter stack and starting fresh. Now, you can add a filter either by clicking on the Add Filter button right here, or by selecting a filter on the left or selecting a preset to get started. I'm just going to click on the Fall Enhancing filter right here to get started. You notice when I click on that, it automatically adds a color enhancer filter, opens it up and shows me the settings that are used in that filter. If I want to add another filter, for example, I want to add a dynamic contrast filter on top of this, I can just click on the Add Filter button. This will add a new empty filter slot, and now it's waiting for me to pick what I want to put into it. I can pick that here from the pop-down list of filters, or I can use the filter list on the left, whichever I prefer. I'm just going to select Dynamic Contrast. That will fill that filter slot with dynamic contrast. It automatically switches my category on the left to show me the options inside of it. To get a little bit more room, we can close the preset drawer on the left just by clicking the double chevrons in the bottom left-hand corner. Adjusting filters works the same way it did before. On each individual filter, you can adjust the sliders that control how it works. If you want to mask a filter to apply it in just a selective area, that's a little different now. At the top of each filter, there's a mask icon. When you click on the mask icon, it will reveal a masking section. It shows you the layer mask and gives you some of the most common masking options you want to use. It also selects the masking brush for you automatically. So now I could paint this filter away if I didn't want it in certain areas. So I'm just going to paint it away off this leaf right here, just for illustration purposes. You notice how the mask view updates right here. And I have the options to reset or invert and to copy and paste that mask as well. If I want to adjust the blending options for a filter, I click on the gear icon right here. This will give me the blending options where I can change the blending mode for the filter, its apply to range, and its protection options, just like we did in the past. To delete a filter, simply click on the trash can in the header of each filter. You can close a filter just by clicking on it to roll it up. Let me add a vignette and I'll show you how to reorder filters. If I click on the Add Filter button, I'll add a vignette. If I want to change the order of filters, all I do is simply drag one filter below the next or above. So I'm just going to click on the vignette filter. I'm just going to drag it below to change the order so that the vignette comes before the color enhancer, or I can change it back. You'll also notice at the top there's a new section called Overall Settings. Overall Settings gives you the master opacity slider that we're all used to using, but it adds some really cool new options as well. First off is a mask for the entire preset. So you can take your entire stack and mask on it just like an individual filter. Click on the mask button to reveal the master mask, which you can now use any of the masking tools on, which masks or blends the entire stack of filters against your original image. You can also do the same thing with the master blending options, where you can control the blending mode and the apply to and protect sliders for the entire stack all at once. Keep in mind that settings you change in overall settings are not stored into a preset. One of the changes you might notice is that the dedicated black and white module, which you used to see over in the module selector, has now moved inside of effects. The main reason that we did this is to unlock the full power of Perfect Effects for a black and white workflow. Even though we put everything that we could think of into black and white, customers were always asking to use other filters from effects at the same time. It now gives you the ability to use everything, the full arsenal of tools inside of effects on your black and white photos. Now we've enhanced the black and white filter so that you have all the same options that you had inside of the dedicated black and white module, and we've brought forward the most popular black and white presets from it. So if I go to the black and white category and I select it, I will see presets that have the same names and match the same looks as the most popular looks in the dedicated black and white module. I can click on the Quick View Browser button to view those larger to make my selection quickly. Now we started by picking the most popular presets, but you can still get all of the presets from the ON1 website. I'm just going to select one to get started. I'll use this HDR landscape preset. You notice how it adds the black and white filter, and let me show you a couple of the great changes. First off is there's now options for the black and white conversion. to either use a traditional channel mixer or to use the color response options that we developed for black and white. This gives you the auto black and white mix option and gives you the target brightness tool where you can click on a certain color in the image to change its brightness. So for example, if I click on the targeted brightness tool and I want to take all the greens and brighten them, I can just click on anything that is green in the photo, drag to the right to increase its brightness, or drag to the left to decrease its brightness. The great thing is I can now use all of the other filters inside of effects at the same time. So I've always wanted to use dynamic contrast on my black and white photos, but it wasn't there. So now I can click Add Filter, select Dynamic Contrast, and really make my black and white images pop. If there's any presets that you miss from previous versions, you can download those from the ON1 website. Just go to the Preset menu and select Get More Presets. Now let's take a look at the big change in Portrait, and that's how you set up a face to work on it. It'll still automatically detect all the faces in your scene and gives you the option to delete those faces or to add faces that it might have missed. The big change is that we now ask for a little bit of help from you to identify the eyes and the mouth so that we can do a better job of placing those control points for you automatically. Let me show you how it works. When it launches, it'll find all the faces and it puts a white box around the faces just like it did before. Then click on the face you want to work on. Now here's the difference. It's going to zoom in and it's going to ask you right up here at the top to click on the center of the left eye. Then it'll ask you to click on the center of the right eye and then to click on each corner of the mouth. By setting these 4 key points, it allows us to detect which features you want to work on and do a much better job of accurately placing the control point masks for you. Once you set those 4 points, you just click the Done button. There we go. We'll see the new Face Inspector palette pop up over here, which gives us additional guidance and allows us to control some of the options. You notice how it's done a better job of positioning the eye and mouth points for us automatically. I can now adjust those points as needed. Just simply click and drag on a point. Clicking and dragging and adjusting the points is much faster than it used to be. There's no time lag between adjusting them. The mouth also has a new center adjustment point, the blue point that I can click on, which I can use to reposition the entire mouth if I need to. Once you've set those key points, I can simply move over to the control panes on the right. You notice when I do that, the inspector and the control points disappear, so I see just the results on my image. To adjust the skin mask, I can simply click on the Adjust Skin Area button, which will automatically show me just the mask of the skin and gives me the correct tool to go in and make adjustments to the skin. So if I wanted to add in this little bit of cheek, I can just simply paint that into the mask, just like that. The other handy thing about setting the eye and mouth points at the beginning is it allows you to control which areas you actually want to retouch. I'm just going to hit the Reset button to start from scratch. Now let's say that I only want to retouch the eyes and I don't want to do anything to the mouth. So watch, I can just click on the eyes, and now instead of clicking on the corners of the mouth, I'll just hit the skip point button or hit the space bar on my keyboard. Now I can skip adding the mouth region altogether and only retouch the eyes. Or if all I want to do is retouch the skin, I can skip adding any of those points and only focus on the skin retouching. One of the biggest changes in ON1 Photo 10 to an existing customer is that the resize module, or the components that make up the resize module, have been sprinkled throughout the entire product and moved into the export module. When it comes to basic cropping and resizing, you can do that inside of Layers or inside of Enhance just by simply using the crop tool. There's no additional work required. Let me show you. I'll just grab this TIFF file right here, and let's say I want to crop and resize this to a 16 by 20. I can just simply go to Layers or Enhance, then simply grab the crop tool, and from the pop-up on the left, just select what size I want to crop to. So if I wanted to select a 16 by 20 photographic print, I just go to the photographic category and select 16 by 20. This will automatically set the width, the height, and the resolution for me automatically. I can adjust those if I need to. So let's say I only need 240 pixels per inch for my printer. There we go. It adds the crop box. I can now move and rotate and adjust the crop box to get just the image size that I want. And when I hit apply, it'll crop and resize the image using the ON1 resize or the Genuine Fractals method, just like that. Now, if I wanted to make this a gallery wrap, I would simply click on the Export Resize option over here in the bottom right-hand corner. This will open the Export Resize drawer. And from here, it combines the power of batch processing plus the extra features from Perfect Resize like tiling and gallery wrap. So to make a gallery wrap, I would click on the plus button and turn on the gallery wrap option. I can then pick the type of gallery wrap that I want, the thickness that I need. Then I select what I want to apply it to in terms of the file type, the location, and the way I want to name it. You can also use Export Resize to batch process an entire group of images. In this case, I'm going to select all of the images in this album, just using the Control-A or Command-A keyboard shortcut, and click on Export. Let's say I want to make small JPEGs for my website. Under the File Type option, I just select JPEG. I can pick the quality that I need and the color space. I can select where to place them, and I can choose how I want to name them. If I want to resize them, I just click the plus button at the top, and I can add photo size. Now I can pick those same sizes that I saw using the crop tool, or I can type in whatever size I want. Let's say I want to set these to be the long edge of 1,000 pixels. There we go. Now it'll take all of these photos of different sizes and proportions, it'll resize them so that their long edge is 1,000 pixels, and make them a JPEG, save them to my desktop with the naming option that I want. If this is a workflow I use all the time, I can click the Save Preset button and save it as a preset so I can use it over and over again. If you prefer a traditional Perfect Resize workflow, when you install ON1 Photo 10, it will automatically keep your previous versions installed. If you don't have a previous version of Perfect Resize installed already, you can select to add it to the installation when you install ON1 Photo 10, or you can rerun the installer later to add it. If you manage your photos in Lightroom, you can still send photos from Lightroom to ON1 Photo the same way you have in the past. Just select the photo you want to work on, go to the File menu, go down to Plugin Extras, and then select which module you want to work in. One of the cool things is you can now bounce between modules without having to come back to Lightroom. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to start in Enhance. I'm just going to make a couple quick tonal and color adjustments here. You'll notice that the module selector is enabled, and I can send it to Portrait or Effects at the same time now as well. I'm going to pick Effects, and we'll convert it to black and white at the same time. I'll just go to my black and white category and pick one that I like. Let's use the Quick View browser. Here we go. I like this one called Dramatic Sky. There we go. It gives me a nice deep dark sky. And I'll hit Apply. And back in Lightroom, there's our results stacked with the original. If you're a Photoshop user, there's some big changes in how you interact with ON1 Photo now. Rather than finding the plugins under the Automate menu, you can now find them where you've always wanted them under the Filter menu. Go to the Filter menu, down to ON1, and there you'll see Effects, Enhance, and Portrait, which can now be used just like any other filter. And the handy thing is you can now bounce between all three of them at the same time. You can also use the ON1 panel. Just go to the Windows menu, Extensions, and select ON1. This will open up the ON1 panel where you have access to your installed plugins and their presets from a simple floating palette.